Welcome, everyone, to this podcast on starting up your small business. There are many steps, it's a very exciting journey, and we look forward to being with you through every step on that journey as you go through your startup process. So, without further ado, my name is Mark. I'm from Ostel 3000, one of the founders. Elaine Butler is my partner and co director in the business, and we will be taking you through this slide deck showing you all the steps you need to do to start up your small business. Now, following on from this, we'll be creating other podcasts that go into even more detail for each of the individual points. So, looking forward to being with you on this journey. Let's dive in. So, the saying goes, do something you love and you'll never work a day in your life. And that's so true. At least, once the business gets off the ground. Some of you may be struggling to find business ideas, while others may have so many ideas and you're struggling to choose one that's going to be the most profitable and the one that's going to bring the most value for your customers. You may have a product or service already in mind, and the key thing to remember here is that your product or your service must not only be profitable to you, but there must also be a space for that product or service in the marketplace. And that's where your market research comes in. You must be able to have a unique selling point, a unique proposition of value that will make your product or service attractive to the market. Because let's face it, in today's world, there are so many businesses out there in exactly the same product or service space that you are looking to get into. Many markets are saturated, and it's extremely difficult to come up with a totally brand new concept that nobody else has thought about or is already doing. So, what we have to do as entrepreneurs is find that problem that is still not being solved. And if it is being solved, then we find a different way of solving it or make the current way of solving a problem for a customer a lot more user friendly or beneficial for them. So it's a tight space to squeeze into at the moment. And it takes a lot of thinking, it takes a lot of creativity, and it also takes a lot of commitment, devotion, and determination to find that unique selling point and then find a way to bring it to the market in a profitable way. Business planning is a critical part of any startup initiative process. And in that planning phase, creation of a business plan is essential. Now, you will find many of these on the internet, online, various different templates, so you can have a play around with them and find the one that helps you provide the most detail, because that will help you when you're applying for grants and applying for loans and approaching banks or maybe even investors. Now, your business plan will be asking you for details of your company registration, if you have one. It'll be asking you for details of your company structure, how you plan to make your revenue, your ideal customer or customer avatar, as they call it, and basically what a customer avatar is. It's telling or putting into your business plan exactly who your target market is. So you create a persona of your ideal customer. You imagine what your ideal customer would look like, where they live, the salary they earn, are they family people, do they have kids, are they single, are they business women, businessmen, are they couples in business together, what's their annual salary, what's their spending power, and what sort of groups do they associate with, what kind of social media do they associate with, where do you find their posts on LinkedIn, what are they frequently talking about. So it takes quite a lot of work, but you can do it in a day, to put together a customer avatar. And once again, there are many resources on the internet that will give you templates and guidance as to how to do this. Creation of a customer avatar cannot be overemphasized, and it's something that is frequently overlooked by small businesses. It helps you put your targets in the right place, and it helps you focus on the right market. Now, another thing that your business plan will ask you to do, it will ask you to identify milestones on your journey. For example, by the end of the first quarter of 2025, we will have made X amount of money in terms of revenue. We will have so many customers on our client base, maybe 20 or 30, and they'll be subscription based. This is the kind of money that we'll be earning from them, and also will help you identify your strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, and threats. So there's something called a SWOT analysis. If you look that up on the internet, you'll be able to find that as well. And that helps you identify all the strengths and weaknesses that you as a business owner have, so that you can address your weaknesses, These may be, you may need specific training or specific courses in the particular industry you're going into. For example, if you're looking at opening a takeaway or something like that, you will need to do a food and hygiene training and get a certificate for that. You'll need a food and hygiene rating from your local environmental agency. So it will help you identify pitfalls before you get into them, and therefore bring your business to a point where it stands the best chance of success and the least chance of failure. So in this section, we're going to talk about setting up your business. You may be operating as a sole trader, in which case you don't need to register as a limited company, or you may choose to register as a limited company because registration as a limited company brings various different benefits, among which are your business is taken a lot more seriously by potential partners. It's also seen as more professional by potential customers, and it also takes all liability of anything that may happen away from you and places it squarely with the business. So the business becomes liable for any issues that may come up as a result of its operation, and not you as a person. So there's huge benefits to this. It's quite cheap to register a company in the UK. I think it's something like 20 something pounds. I've registered many of them over the years. Some of them have been successful, some of them have not. And as an entrepreneur, sometimes you have to know when to turn the switch off and move on to something else. It's part of the entrepreneurial journey. Not everything you do will be successful, and if it is, well done. But it's a journey. There's many challenges along the way, and in your setup stage, this is where you set yourself up for success. So not only are we talking about registration as a limited company, but we're also talking about setting up a proper business banking account, because that will help to keep your personal finances and business finances separate, which will be invaluable at accounting time. You don't really want your accountants going into your own personal banking accounts. You want them to have an account they can look at that's purely deals with business. So you can give them passwords and various different things for limited periods, and have peace of mind that someone is dealing with what you need to have. You also need to choose a location. Now, the great thing about running business in 2024 and the years to come is that so many things are possible online. And I strongly recommend that whatever you do, you start off online if necessary. If you have to have a physical location, then that's just one of those things. The benefits of doing things online is that you have minimal risk and you have smaller overheads. You have no rent to pay, no lease to pay, and all those various different commitments. It also gives you a lot of flexibility in terms of if you think of having to redesign a shop, for example, and maybe change the decor or paint it or rearrange the furniture or the office layout, that's very time consuming. Online businesses are generally done from home, and any depiction of your business is done online, so via your website, which is why websites are very important. They need to be professional looking, and they need to present your company to the customer in the light which you wish that to happen. So changing a website is fairly easy. A lot of websites these days are AI and drop and drag, so you can actually modify your websites on your own, and it's a lot easier than changing a business premises or office, for example. Many small businesses and small organizations start off by funding their activities from personal finances, and sometimes that's feasible. The danger is business consumes a lot of money very quickly. There may be small subscriptions, but they soon mount up, and before you know it, thousands have left your bank account. It's easy done. So my recommendation to you would be to get a startup loan, or get a grant, or get maybe some investment in the early days. I would avoid shareholders, because shareholders eventually become more powerful than the business owner in many cases, and your position in the business becomes at risk. If you look at the history of EasyJet, for example, that has happened a few times. Same thing with Steve Jobs and his Apple venture. He ended up being moved out of his own company that he founded. So I would avoid shareholders, but that's my personal opinion. In terms of ensuring your own mental well-being and your own financial well-being, Loans and grants also provide that because it's separate to your own personal finances, and so your personal survival money is not all in with the business money, because sometimes it becomes a challenge to prioritize what's more important. Do we need to pay this bill this week, or do we need to take this subscription, for example, this marketing facility that's been provided to us? And you end up with this tug of war situation where it becomes difficult to prioritize your personal requirements over your business requirements. So it's always good to have the finances kept very separate. An accounting system is invaluable because if you start off early, especially in the early days, look for accounting systems online. I hesitate to mention any now because that'll be free advertising for them. And we are here to help small businesses and not the big players. So if you have a look online, you will find a few accountancy providers. Some of them are freelancers, some of them are small companies, some are well established. There are even apps on the App Store and in the Play Store as well that help you with accountancy. So have a look at those and start keeping track of your financial activity as soon as possible. As soon as you do the first thing to do with business, whatever it is and how small it is, start keeping track of it. I can't emphasize that anymore, because at the end of the financial year, when you have to pull together all the different expenses you've put into the business and all the different profits, if you've made any, and all the different sales, it will be extremely challenging if you don't have a bank account set up for your company. Believe me, I've been there myself in the early days when I first started setting up companies in the early 2000s, and it's a lesson I'll never forget. So I strongly recommend you to start an accounting system and have a business bank account sooner rather than later. Now, branding is something that many small businesses overlook or don't consider further than just creating a logo. Your branding is more than a logo, it's more than the colors that you choose, and it goes a lot deeper than that. Now, what I'm talking about here is being mindful about the social media accounts you associate with, the comments you put on social media, the likes you make. Some things may be funny, they may be amusing, but as a budding business owner, you have no idea how far your business is going to go. I assume that most of you are looking at progressing your business to a point where it becomes financially sustainable and it gives you financial freedom. So we're talking about, maybe 50, 60,000 pounds a year, if not more. And to get there, it's going to take a lot of work. And one of the important things you need to do in that phase is be very careful to protect your credibility and your brand at all times. So it all comes down to your associations and the people you hang out with, the places you go to, the sites you visit on social media, and everything you get involved in online becomes something that becomes associated with your brand and therefore part of it. So it's a really important aspect. So take some time to choose your brand. I wouldn't recommend that you ask several people for opinions on what it looks like and whether they like it or not, because you could be doing that for a year or more if you do that. Your brand and your logo are your passion, and you need to be responsible for that. You need to choose it. If you're working with a partner, choose it together. Make sure you choose something that represents you as people and represents you as a business, and maybe try out a few different versions. See which one you feel fits most with the product or service you are trying to offer and with your vision for the future for your company. Once you've settled on that, create it, and it's going to go on your business cards, it's going to go on your vehicles if you're going to need to use any, it will go on your website, and it will become something that you and your business are known by. So take time and care to create one that represents your vision. So operations, in here we start talking about things like having your supplies and your business stationery available for you. So laptops, computers, printers, some of you may need them, and scanners. Sometimes you get these as all-in-one these days and for quite affordable amounts. So you need to get all those things ready before you start operating, or buy them as you go. It's up to you to decide whether or not to buy everything in bulk beforehand or to buy them as you go. I recommend doing things as required, because sometimes you buy things that are not needed and they go past the return date and now you spend something on something that you don't need to use. For example, when we first started looking into marketing, we bought all our laptops, we bought a PC, we bought a printer and scanner combined. We also bought an iPad because the iPad was there to help us in the field. It's a lot easier to do demonstrations using an iPad than it is on a smartphone, and it's also less bulky than a laptop. But we found that in certain places we went to, a lot of the places we went to, there was either a very poor Wi-Fi signal, or there was or a very poor mobile signal, and the intended use of the iPad wasn't as expected. So we reverted to using a laptop. So that may not be the case for you, but the point to take away is buy things when you need them. Do some careful analysis first before you put money into buying equipment, and that includes things like business cards. It's really nice to have business cards, especially as a startup. You hand it out to all your friends and people people you see in shops and the park and the pub and various different things. The reality is, until you've done your website and your website is all final and your email addresses are all set up, and all that has come to a conclusion, then you can start doing your leaflets and your business cards. The reason is, sometimes you have problems with the website, like the website address or the website domain. We had a problem with this previously in one of our other businesses, where after we had bought hundreds of business cards and leaflets and got them custom printed, about a month later, we ended up with a problem with the website domain, and we had to change the website address. This was something that was unforeseen, and we therefore had hundreds of business cards and leaflets that were now useless, because you don't want to be putting Tipex on your business cards and your leaflets and handing them out, because once again, remember, these form part of your branding, and you want things to be of the highest possible quality and represent your best foot to your customer before you put it forward. So in terms of hiring staff, as a startup, knowing your business as the business owner is your key and number one priority. You must know your products. You must know your website in and out. You must know all aspects of your business, and that takes some time. It will give all staff you hire in the coming up period, be they freelancers, commission only, or indeed there may be permanent staff. It will give them confidence that they are working for people who are well established and know what they're doing. It's not a good idea to bring people on board in your business before you actually get the hang of the way things should be yourself. And there's a lot to do there. For example, policies and processes, simple things like when a telephone call comes in from a customer, how do we handle it? What's the initial greeting? Do we have a script or do we not have a script? What do we need to do at the end of every call? Is there someone we need to refer them to? Do we need to try and get their email address? All these are processes, and you must have them written down so that when you start expanding and you bring people on board, you have something to show them and you have something that they can use to help them in their daily work for you and keep your business running effectively. So you'll also need some form of onboarding or training system for staff. And this is something that needs to be written down, all in a process, and everything got ready. For example, you may say you need staff to be trained in sales, for example. So you must have some sales training available for them to use. You must have tested that sales training system yourself and make sure that it's user-friendly and gives you the desired output. So soft launching your business. This is making sure everything is all ticking along nicely before you take it fully fledged into the public domain. So get some friends, people you trust, people that have your best interest at heart. And it's not always easy to find those, because sometimes the people we know, sometimes even our friends, suddenly have a bit of a negative attitude towards us when we start businesses. Don't ask me why, but sometimes that does happen. So it's important to get the right energies in your business. This is something I'll touch on a little bit later, because it's something I'm really passionate about. Having the right people around you to help you and support you get to where you need to be. So in terms of a soft launch, get those right people to test your website out for you. Go to the various different pages. They may find some spelling mistakes or some errors, or may have a suggestion on how it could be presented in a more user-friendly way. Remember, these are just opinions and they help engagement, but ultimately your website will have been designed, hopefully, by someone who is technically able, and not just technically able, but also knows the psychological aspect of website creation in terms of how it needs to be laid out, how it needs to get the right customer engagement, and so on and so forth. So make sure everything is working, get people on board and do your soft launch for you. If you're using Stripe, for example, or PayPal or credit card payments on your website, do some dummy payment checks on there. Just make sure everything works properly. So that'll be your soft launch. And then once you've done all that and you're happy with everything's, is functioning well, for example, your contact forms and all that kind of thing, then you can do your grand opening and, send your website live and get your real customers on board with your product. Now, growth and performance, growth and improvement. It's important to monitor the improvement process in your business. You know where you started, you had some milestones, and you worked towards them. Keeping track of how close you get to your milestones in the time. Remember SMART goals, for any of you that have done those. You'll have set some milestones and some goals for your business, and those milestones and goals are specific, they're measurable, they're achievable, they are realistic or relevant, and they are time bound. So that's the acronym SMART. Look that up if you haven't already done so. So set some SMART goals for your business and use that SMART goal monitoring system to just see how well you're doing. Now, remember, you're not always going to hit your targets and your goals at those specific times. But what that does is it gets you used to using a SMART approach to things. And apart from that, it also helps you figure out why you didn't actually hit your targets or reach your milestones in the planned time. Make some adjustments so that your next milestone benefits from any improvements that you make. Customer feedback is important. It's one of the most important things you can do for your business. So have a form of feedback in place. So if you've got a website, you'll have a contact us form on there. You may have a live chat pop up that comes up where you can get customer feedback. And there are some plug-in softwares that you can use to collect feedback from your customers as they visit your website or interact with your business. Getting feedback from your customers helps you reduce risk of a reduction in credibility for your brand. So if anybody brings complaints to you, see it as something positive and constructive. And remember, the customer is king. So take their feedback, use it as far as you can to improve on your business, and then give them feedback as well and let them know that we've taken your feedback on board. These are some of the adjustments we've made. We're really thankful for your feedback. Here's a complimentary something, for the time you've taken to help us improve on our business. The customer is your key partner in any venture, and this is something that we must always remember. So the final part of this tutorial, podcast, presentation, whatever you want to call it, is all about legal advice. Now, in my experience, most of the businesses I've run or been involved in have not needed independent legal advice. However, you need to examine your own business for yourself and decide on whether you need separate legal advice. In general, there's a lot of legal advice available on the internet in various forms as PDF downloads. If you go to .gov.uk, you'll probably find the best legal advice possible on there in terms of what you need to do to comply with regulations. So remember, .gov.uk. I recommend using that for all your research in terms of compliance, because there are so many different sites on the internet that have a flurry of information, lots of charts and graphs and statistics, but their credibility may not always be as high as it should. So use .gov.uk where you can. Use Companies House as well, just to make sure that whatever you put in place, right, you are doing it in a compliant fashion so that your profits and your business don't become at risk when you get fined or find yourself having to deal with some legal difficulties somewhere down the road. For example, if you ran a takeaway, we had a takeaway idea several years ago, and we were looking into running takeaways. And when we did our profit and loss statements, we found that it wasn't going to be profitable enough. The margins for profit are too small. The risks are very great. There's lots of regulations and compliance requirements, even down to how you dispose of your grease from chip fryers and things like that. So that attracts another expense because you can't just let it go down your drains. You need to have grease traps. They need to be serviced and maintained, and the grease needs to be, disposed of in a certain way. So, there's lots of room for error lots of room for fines, and lots of room for the wrong attention from the environmental agency, for example. Not to mention the risk of food hygiene issues, which will affect your customers. So we decided not to go down the food route, because looking at it, the compliance requirements and regulations are so extensive that it would be quite difficult for a small business to do it effectively, let alone the charges that you get from the service providers, whose name I won't mention. You go online, you order food from them, they take a substantial cut from food businesses, which makes your profit even lower. In terms of insurance, if you're running your business from home, you'll need to make sure that your home insurance is not adversely impacted by running a business there. You may also need public liability insurance for various different trades that you are in or products that you are selling. So these are things you need to also look into. What insurance do you need? Because fair enough, you may run a business for 10 years and nothing goes wrong and you don't have insurance. But the day something does go wrong and you haven't got insurance, the implications could be so great, they could affect your brand and your product beyond recovery. So business is a risky operation. Entrepreneurship is all about taking risks, but the risks must be calculated, and the risks must not be risks that deliberately put your venture in danger and increase the chances of shutdown. So with following podcasts and tutorials, they will be available on YouTube. I'll send you all the link to them so that you can have a look if you feel that you need to learn any more. I'll be going into a lot more detail into the various different aspects that I've done in this one. We've covered quite a few topics, just skimmed across them, and there's a lot more in depth that we need to go into to make you a lot more competent in what you're going to be doing. As I said, all this is available on the internet, so I'm not the sole source of this information. What you get from us is the benefit of our support, because we've been through this process quite a few times, the benefit of our experience on a small business level, and on a level that you all can relate to. So that's what you get from us, and various different other assistances like websites, mobile apps, leadership coaching, continuous improvement, and all the rest of it. So hopefully we'll work together, and I'll see you in the next one. Thanks for waiting and thanks for watching. Have a good day.